it is sometimes possible to see that actually things become transparent, so that they are no longer opaque, and they no longer hide God. And this is true. The thing that we have to face is that life is this simple. We are living in a world that is absolutely transparent, and God is shining through it all the time. And this is not just a fable or a nice story, it is true. See? And this is something we're not able to see. But if we abandon ourselves to Him and forget ourselves, we see it sometimes, and we see it maybe frequently. See? That God manifests Himself everywhere, in everything. In people, and in things, and in nature, and in events, and so forth. So that it becomes very obvious that He is everywhere, and He's in everything, and we can't be without Him. You cannot be without God. It's impossible. It's just simply impossible.
Hello, I'm Susan Donovan, president of Bellarmine University. I'm pleased to introduce this video about something that makes Bellarmine unique: our connections to Thomas Merton and his work in spiritual health, cultural health, and ecumenical relations. This video will showcase some of the capacities of our Merton-oriented faculty and staff. We invite you to learn more about us and what we offer in Merton studies, theology, environmental studies, ministry, the arts, and so much more.
Merton, I think, is so Bellarmine in so many ways. He is all about raising questions of meaning, value, purpose, discernment, vocation. We prepare our students for successful lives and successful careers, but we also prepare our students to live lives that are rich with meaning. And Merton reminds us of what it means to live a life that is rich with meaning and to raise questions, even difficult questions about ourselves and our purpose.
Merton was all about authenticity, what it means to be your true self, and he interpreted that in a way that related to social issues. So I often say to students that he was very good at diagnosing the spiritual roots of social problems.
Thomas Merton is involved in our core curriculum, in our curriculum at Bellarmine, in a number of different ways and in a number of different levels. The way that we do core knowledge at Bellarmine, whether it's a natural science or a philosophy course or a mathematics course, we do it in a way that's particularly inflected by Merton and his values. These are courses where students don't just kind of learn the subject matter, but also where we're raising questions of meaning and value and purpose, again, following Merton's example here.
Thomas Merton's writings are prophetic and timeless. He talked about race, he talked about differences, he talked about interconnectedness of all lives, which is something that's really important to us. He had a sense of appreciation for God's work in communities, in people, and that transfers very well to a Catholic institution that's educating the whole person, but also in developing interior lives, in developing character, purpose, ethics, things that are important to us for their educational experience.
So sometimes he is mischaracterized as, being only interested in the interior life and the individual and becoming your true self in that sense. But for him, what that meant, authenticity, was to be connected to who you are created to be. So for him, there's no true self without thinking about creation. What does it mean just to be a creature? And in order to know that, you have to experience some kind of kinship with your fellow creatures. I've had experience of this in undergraduate classes here at Bellarmine, where students who are not religious dive into Thomas Merton and they say, oh, This is different than what I thought theology was, because Merton seems to be talking about some of my own feelings of alienation from reality, but he's talking about it in a way that I can actually, get into it without knowing all of the church talk lingo. Because Merton cared about persons. He didn't care about the conformity of people's speech or thoughts.
I think for many people, the Merton Center, coming to see Thomas Merton's papers is really a pilgrimage for them. It's almost a sacred space that some people Merton has influenced for their whole lives. Merton has had effect on so many different areas of people's lives, and to think that those areas can be affecting the life of our students, our alumni, our faculty, that his writings on issues to do with social issues, for example, on war, racism, fit right in with the long tradition of Catholic social teaching. And Merton had a way of talking about those issues that made them relevant to the present day, certainly to the time that he was writing, but as is so obvious now with the issues that we're still facing in the world, he seems to get to the real heart of those problems.
Our faculty are drawn to Bellarmine. Primarily, one of the reasons for many of them is the Thomas Merton connection, because they're able to infuse it into a theology course, into a philosophy course, into environmental sciences. The breadth of his values and his writings, he wrote 70 books, touch upon so much of the curriculum and the life of the mind and the whole person experience that our faculty are able to engage in. So it inspires them as well as inspiring our students.
For me, singing just brings me immense joy. There's nothing else in life that I love doing more than singing and sharing the emotions that I'm feeling with people. I think the power of music and a lot of art forms, you're able to connect with people. That's beautiful. Music is accessible to people from all backgrounds, cultures. It transcends linguistic barriers, cultural barriers, and makes music more accessible, really offering it a place in a worship experience to resonate deeply with a lot of diverse backgrounds.
For me, faith and science are integrated. I see them as answering different kinds of questions about the world. Faith is answering questions about our purpose, our meaning, our ethics, and science is answering questions about how does the world work? Why do things happen? And so both of those things together is a really rich picture of our existence. And so I don't see any kind of conflict between faith and science. I think they're very richly compatible.
So it was important for Merton to engage in dialogue because he thought we share something, all of us share something in common. And what that is explained in one of his writings. And in it, he talks about Genesis 2:7. This is the passage where God breathes in the breath of life to humanity. And he thought we all had this breath that we carry with. And so this is what the Christians might call the Holy Spirit. And so because we all carry this, we have this commonly shared experience and commonly shared understanding about humanity.
Laudato Si is a document that Pope Francis wrote in 2015 to talk about our common home, the earth that we share, and why it is so important for us to take care of it and in turn to take care of each other. And I see this document as a real blueprint for how we as a human species needs to move forward in our thinking about not only how we care about the environment and the things that live on it, but how we take care of each other. Really, those two things are inextricably linked. Our Catholic identity is completely linked with this vision that Pope Francis has with how we are supposed to be moving forward and taking care of our planet.
It's all about the future generation. I think we have a responsibility to create a better future for them, a place that they can live together in a more inclusive environment and less of a polarized and divided environment.
When I first visited the archives here at Bellarmine, I had never been to the United States before. My first ever trip to the United States was from England to Kentucky. And so the first night I spent in the United States was here on Bellarmine's campus. And it really was a pilgrimage for me. And on the trip I also went to the Abbey of Gethsemane and got to see, many of the local places that had Merton connections. Never dreaming that I would, a few years later, come back here and actually be running the actual archives. And so, we get people like that coming from all over the world. And sometimes I think local people just aren't aware of the impact that Merton has in that way.
Interfaith is important to me. It was great when I came to Bellarmine because they also had a philosophy of interfaith, and that students don't have to be Catholic. They don't actually even have to be believers. I mean, we have retreats for non-believers. Part of Catholic is universal. If you look at the definition of Catholic, it's to be universally accepting. It's great for students to really explore their spirituality while they're students in college, while they can make mistakes, but also while they have peers and faculty mentors and others that are going to help sort of bounce ideas off of them. I always say you don't get these years back. It's really important that you soak it up like a sponge, and the interfaith only helps clarify for them their own faith. And I think Thomas Merton, again, was so ahead of his time with this, that he opened up some of the discussions that we're still having today about how do people of other races, how do people of other religious backgrounds work together, how do they come together to understand how we can have an impact on this world.